Welcome to Practical Shooting After Dark. This is the adults only practical shooting podcast. It is currently after dark, isn't it, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
We are liquored up.
It gets
and
dark
live.
at like 6 o'clock now, but yes.
We're not liquored up and live. I've been drinking Monster, so I can't speak to you. All right, joining me today, Mr. Kim.
Hello.
Hello. Okay, that's vaguely racist. I kind of like it. And Mr. Park,
Hello.
who you would think is also Korean.
That's what Kim thought the first time he met me. He's like, yeah, your last name's Park. You must be Korean. I'm like, no, sorry.
I sent him the diagram. So 12% of Korean people has last name Park. 12 people. 12% percentage.
Something new. Something
Sorry
new
to disappoint.
every single day. All right, guys. You know the rules. Everybody comes here with a topic. All right, so show and tell, where you got a product, a thing, an item you want to show and you want to tell about, something you worked on this week in shooting, or something that triggers you, something that makes you a little angry. I know you're bottling up some rage, Joel. Can't wait to hear what about.
Not me.
No, not you. All right, who'd like to go first?
Okay, I can start.
Mr. Kim.
Yes, so I want to show you what I was drinking just a moment ago. If you are an audio listener, just check out the YouTube.
It is Blitz,
So-
Tumbler Media
Yes.
Additive.
Yes. So this, if you reload, if you have a reloading press, and if you don't like reloading and having a lot of squeaky noise and your brass being kind of not shiny, this is a great solution. So this is Blitz Tumbler Media. I got it from the internet. So I used to do the liquid tumbling, water tumbling, and the downside was my brass was very dry and no lubrication on it. So whenever I reload, it's like clunking and powder spill everywhere. And I started doing corn cob tumbling. And then I bought this tumbler media, and instantly it made every brass shiny after like 30 minutes of tumbling. And also it lubricates the case really well. So my press is moving really smooth, and there's no powder spill because there's no clinking and all that. So I want I want people to try this. It's fairly cheap on Amazon. So if you don't like your brass, if you want your brass shiny, pretty, and maybe make it a wedding ring out of it, just use this tumbler media.
I like it.
Yeah,
Okay.
really shiny.
Fantastic. Well,
Yes.
I don't have much to say about that. I go wet tumbling, my man.
Yeah, wet tumbling, I don't like it. It's too dry. You gotta use a lube, proper lube for beautiful, shiny things.
Proper lube. What do you mean?
Yeah,
I'm not going to touch that.
I use
I don't
Lemmy
know.
Shine, little KY.
Like a gun lube or silicone lube or this tumbler media.
Well, you do you, buddy. All I know is I make reloads and they're basically functional most of the time.
Yes.
It's quality I stand behind, sir. All right, Joel.
Right.
Let's move on.
I posted a video, one of my match I shot for the Iowa section in Practical Shooting Training Group. And
What is
Kim,
this training group thing, sir?
I'll tell you about it later.
All right.
All right, so Kim picked it apart and pointed out some things that I needed to do better. One of which was there's an activator sequence at the end of the stage, and there's a pressure pad which activated a max trap, which was fast. So I'm like, yeah, I know I need to shoot that first. There's a static piece of paper. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna shoot the paper next. I go to this next port, and I'm like, all right, when I enter on a setup, there's this closed paper. I'm gonna hit this, and then the activator's gonna be right there. Move my gun to it. Well, when I shot the stage, it wasn't where I thought it was gonna be. So I kind of hesitated, like I moved the gun there just a tick, like nope, not it, went to something else, came back, ended up catching it that time. Well, Kim mentioned that, and which I knew I needed to work on, gave me some suggestions for how to work on that. So one of the things I've been doing more in dry fire is like your transitions drill that you do, where I put up a random targets, and I'll just pick a par time out for what I think it's going to take me. And I look at it and I'm like, okay, this draw is going to be 105, 1.1, okay, 1.1. And this transition is going to be 0.2, whatever. And so I have this in my mind. And so I'm working on being able to look at something better and tell you exactly how long it's going to take me to do. So that's helped by building that in dry fire. That will help me in matches. And then also I was to a match recently where steel was stacked up. There was like a big popper and a mini behind it. And then people were having the conversation, well, should I stay on the steel, wait for that one to fall? Because it was forward falling, so you couldn't drive it. Wait for that to fall, then take the mini. Should I shift off that, go to this other piece of paper, and then bring the gun back? And like by building that in dry fire now, I have a better idea of how long it's going to take me. And I'm like, no, this makes more sense to stay at the gun on this piece of steel, wait for the mini, because otherwise I know this is like, let's say a 0.6, whatever the transition is, you know, depending on how far it is. It's going to take me way longer to move off, shoot this paper, if I'm making sense. So I think it's helping me to be more efficient in stage planning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think actually helped to be more efficient? Is it just mostly you're building this bank of information with your knowledge,
Yes.
or what?
Yes.
I mean, that was the ultimate failure when it came down to this. When it came down to a stage, like you had to walk up to it, look at it, and know what you could do in that time, and you called it wrong.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
And would you say that it was a lack of confidence on your part when you walked up and looked at that? Like you didn't trust your own judgment or abilities, or you were playing it safe, or what was the deal?
No, I don't think there was any amount of playing it safe because the max trap was fast enough. I knew I had to shoot that first. There's a static there's a static paper. I'm like, okay, I'll just shoot that next as I'm leaving. Enter the position, and then there was 3 different targets to shoot, 2 of which weren't moving. And so it was just the order, and the swinger was non-disappearing. So it was just when would have been the most sense to, you know, to shoot that activated target.
Yeah.
So if you actually shoot a stage, and also if you shoot the stage only in your mind, it's gonna be almost the equal time, right? Equal speed, equal time.
Right.
So basically, you can shoot in your mind, and actually when you shoot it, it's about the same.
Yes. So I'm working on that. But yes, that was good advice. And so I'm building that in dry fire. And then, like I said, just even in that stage, something that doesn't have an activated target, just building that bank of, okay, I know this is going to take longer to transition off. I'm better off just to stay put because of how long it'll take to swing back to the steel. And it's a mini, so I'm going to have to aim a little bit harder. So I think it's just good information to have.
Yep.
Okay. Shall we move on? Thank you so much, Joel, for plugging the training group, by the way.
It's true, man.
Look, let me cliff notes this bitch for you. Like, you went into training group, you put up a video, you got really useful and insightful feedback, which you're now applying in your training, and you're getting maybe twice as good as you were before.
I don't know. Twice might be an exaggeration.
Maybe 0.3% better than you were before.
I'll take anything. Any improvement's good. How's that?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
For an unsolicited testimonial.
Yes, that is the cliff notes. All right, I want to talk about this. Might come off like a rant, and maybe it is a rant, but
I hope so.
You hope so? You like my rants?
Yeah.
As
the
you guys,
VOC thing was a hit, man. People love that stuff.
They do. As you guys know, I spend a substantial portion of my time in classes with people who, I would say, like the Joel Parks are the exception. People who train a lot and practice a lot and are real serious about shooting. I would say they're more the exception. Most people are like more casual participants, and then they have a class come up in their region and they're okay, I'll go to the class and maybe I'll get a couple things I want to go do in my training, and that's totally fine. No problem with that. But many people show up to a class of the opinion that their gear works, that their gun functions. And then they leave the class with the opposite opinion. They will leave the class thinking, hey, my shit doesn't function. And it's kind of interesting watching that unfold for me. Whereas if I talk to these people before they start shooting in a class, I'll be thinking like, you don't know if that gear works or not. You know what I mean? Like, I'll call it right away. It's like, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but you don't know that. They're like, yep, I just got my gun back from whoever, gunsmith, who just did me a Tanfo trigger job, and I play with the trigger. This is a very common scenario, by the way. Play with it. I'm like, yeah, that feels pretty light. How many rounds to this? Like, oh, 500 rounds. It works great. And I'm thinking, you got no idea if this works. You got no clue. And sure enough, they shoot 1,500 rounds with me, and by the end of that, the springs set in, and the gunsmith tried to impress them and went too light on the trigger, and now it's not popping primers. Or they get their limited gun back from some gunsmith, and oh yeah, it works great. And 600 rounds later, like I see it have a little hiccup, like it's not ejecting. They throw a new magazine in there and it doesn't feed the first one, stuff like that. So what I would say to people is pay attention to your guns when you're shooting them, and like any little fucking thing, like your gun doesn't work. If you can make it not work, it doesn't work, and that's the stuff that you need to work through and practice and try it out. So please do that. I don't like people being frustrated in classes, especially. Like it's annoying. So any little hiccup in a match, like you should go shoot a 150 round match, you go do a 200 round practice, and you're like racking something out of there, or you're trying to make sure something feeds in, like your gun doesn't work. So you need to fix that, or you need to address that, or you need to look at that. You can't ignore that stuff. That's my rant for you.
If I may.
Yes, I could tell you what happens when I get a new gun, if you guys are curious. So new gun comes to me from usually it passes through a gunsmith who will fuck around with it in some way, and then it'll come to me, and then I get this gun. I'm like, this is unknown, and then I shoot it for a few thousand rounds, and if there's any problem at all, I go back to square one, and it's like, what's going on? Like blah blah blah, whatever this. So I got 7 guns this year. One of them came to me with a bad extractor, or bad extractor setup, or something. 6 guns, great. 1 gun failed testing. I addressed the situation. Now, all guns good. That type of a thing. Like you have to shoot them a lot to test them, and if you can get it to not work or whatever, like you just have to fix it. Like you can't ignore that stuff, because when you're actually counting on it to work, like you get that little it was just a little hiccup, or I don't know what that thing was, where I was like pushing my slide into battery. It's like, oh my God. I don't know how people ignore that stuff, but you can't do that. You've got to address it.
Yeah, if I could add, I don't know if you listen to this or not. So when you came to do our class, there's a guy that he had gun problems like the first day within like, I don't know, like 15 minutes. And he's like, whoa. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, you were running the class. I'm like, just here, let's go see over here if we can sort this out. And he's thinking like, I don't even know if I can shoot the class now. Like, what am I going to do? And like you spend a significant amount of your time, energy, time off, the tuition for the class. Like, yeah, it just makes common sense. If you're going to, make the commitment to go to a class that you're set up and your stuff works, it works and it's zeroed and it's reliable. Because otherwise, it's just, like to echo what you said, it's headache you don't need.
Well, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of opinions about gear. Like, hey, if you travel for matches, like if you care enough about this that you travel for matches, you should have 2 guns. Like 2 guns the same. If you care enough about this that you are taking classes, you probably should have 2 guns. You know what I mean? Like, because if one of them fucks up, like you need to have a second one. And I don't care what type of gun it is. Like eventually they wear out, they break, they fuck up, whatever. And it's nice to have a second one.
And I think people should understand their gun. Like most common issues, Temfolio has common issues, and CZs, there's like repeated issues, and you can find the solution easily on the internet.
Yeah, no, I mean, like if I have somebody, this is a recent scenario, so somebody turns up to a class, shooting their CZ all day long, slide stop breaks. Okay, now your gun's fucked. Now, if you know about CZs, you know that you need to have extra slide stops.
Yes.
But this person didn't have an extra slide stop. So it's like, okay, now it's, hey, does anybody else have a CZ here? It's like, well, yours seems sensible, sir. You probably have an extra slide stop. And sure enough, they do. But I mean, this is stuff that you've got to be always paying attention to. Let me put it that way.
Excellent advice.
It is. And it's more like probably the funny rant part of this that you like, Joel, is like, there's so many times when like I will play somebody like they want me to try their trigger. Usually it's on their Tanfolio. I try it. I'm like, yeah, this is way lighter than mine. I don't think this is going to work. And I can't tell you how many times they're like, it was great for 500 rounds. And then like 2,000 rounds, like it's light striking. It's not working. It's like, Or somebody gets their shiny new limited gun and they're like, yeah, it's been running great. And it's like, oh, really? Like it's from such and such a maker who built this? Like, oh, well, if it works, it's the first one I've ever seen of that from that maker, like run out of the box. I'm not saying it won't work. I'm just saying if it does, it's the first one I've ever seen or heard about that did. And sure enough, it won't work. Because I've never seen. I would say like most guys who build limited guns that you care to name, I've actually never seen one of their guns work out of the box. Most. Like the Atlas guns work, I think, better than most. And I think the Brazos guns work pretty well. The other ones, I don't know about. Like, I don't trust any of those fucking things. But again, that's just me. I'm not a trusting person. Joel doesn't want to touch that, does he?
No, I don't.
Well, I mean, it's just like the way the guns work, right? I mean, like,
yeah, I think they require some shooting also to kind of break in, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. That's another thing your gunsmith will tell you.
Yeah, like shoot it. It's your responsibility to make sure it works. Here you go.
Yes, of course. Shoot it, make sure it works. Like my Tanfo 40s didn't need breaking in. They came functional, which was nice.
Yeah, I
appreciated that. Did you shoot mine?
No, I would like to. I have messed with them before, but I have not shot one.
I find it amusing to give my gun to somebody that has like an SV or something. Mm-hmm. And they're just like, well, yeah, your gun's okay. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I mean, here's the thing, though. I could have 4 of these for one of yours.
Yeah. And your mags are probably cheaper than like $150 tuned magazine also. So
yeah, they're not a tune job.
Which is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like telling those guys like, hey, my Tanfolio magazines are like $20 and it drives them crazy. I'm like, oh, yeah. I've got 20 of these.
That's how
like literally.
That's how I can afford these swanky brass base pads, sir.
Yeah, I ducked out of work today. I went to the range. I had 23 loaded magazines to 17 rounds. I'm just like, oh, I'm not going to load magazines today. I've got stuff to do. I'm just going to shoot all these, and when I get done, I throw them in a box, and off I go. It was amazing.
All right. Should we move on to a question?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Here we go. I'm wondering if there's any techniques, drills, or exercises designed to decrease my split times. I'm amazed that shooters can run 12 to 15 splits. Currently, my fastest split times are usually at 20. It doesn't matter the gun or the ammo that I've used. I've tested this on my IDPA USPSA gun, a Tanfo Limited Pro, as well as a 22 caliber pistol with a sub 2-pound trigger. My splits are always 20s with a 19 here and there. How can I get faster? I do understand that these times are only useful for extremely close target arrays, build drills, etc., but I still want to get faster. For context, I'm B-class production, and I shoot much more IDPA than USPSA.
Kim, you or me?
Okay, I can go first. Okay, I have the solution right away. Okay, I don't know this guy, or girl. You gotta play some Call of Duty, PUBG, all the computer video games, so you are able to move your fingers faster. But so the reason why I said this is because when you are clicking the mouse, be careful with be mindful how the tension on your hand is. I'm not talking about finger tension. I'm talking about the whole hand tension. When you're trying to manipulate and click the mouse really fast, you're not tensing up the whole hand and then clicking the mouse with great amount of force. So you click the mouse with gentle finger. You don't have to pull it like a 5-10 pound trigger, right? And also when you do that, your hand is very relaxed. So when you are shooting, intuitively, if you try to shoot the gun with like really tensed up hand, when you pull the trigger, when your fingers are moving, it's not going to move as fast. You can try this at home when you try to click a mouse really fast. So it's really about the hand tension that's enabling the finger to move faster back and forth. And also, one of the greatest misconceptions, there are so many misconceptions on shooting, like grip harder. But one of the misconceptions is that when you pull the trigger, you should move your index finger, so trigger finger, as little as possible. So actually experiment with getting the finger out as short as possible to only to the point of reset versus having the finger out more than the trigger. Actually, like when I try to pull the trigger fast, I feel my trigger finger is losing the contact of the trigger. So I am making sure my fingers are coming out and in very aggressively. So that could be one of them. Because when you try to come out only to the point of reset, sometimes you're going to have trigger freeze. So some people are really be careful of the distance coming out, but try those two things, having the hand tension really relaxed and also like really moving finger out and in further than the reset point. So you're very aggressively manipulating the trigger. And one last thing I want to recommend is if you are shooting when the sight comes back, so if you're reacting to the vision, then you gotta tell your brain to move your finger after you see the front sight coming back down. So when you try to just go fast on the trigger, to just first time, just shoot at 3 yards, ignore the front sight. Do not try to like react to something, but only focus on finger movement in and out, in and out, in and out.
That's awesome.
Help.
Yeah, I like it.
That's something I did. Actually, Ben told me like a year ago, hey, you should try shooting at 3-yard target. And I tried that, and then it was very good for me.
I was actually just going to suggest that even more so, like sometimes you can take the target away, but a lot of times when you say, hey, go to the 3-yard line, focus on hand relaxation, and do bill drills or doubles or something at the 3-yard line, that's where finally people can sort of unleash the beast a bit.
Yeah.
It's not bad advice.
Also, I would comment that I've got a friend that's an open GM, a legit GM, and the fastest he can split's about 18 or 20, and he's very successful in shooting. So I wouldn't spend all your effort trying to get down to 12 or 13s. I can do those splits sometimes, but it's not when I'm trying my hardest to split that hard. It just happens. And the other thing I've seen sometimes, it's people that really have those crazy splits, is they'll get trigger freeze in there somewhere. So imagine like shooting on the move for these close targets as you go by, and then you end up having trigger freeze on like the last one. You're like, oh, you almost like kind of like almost break 180. You have to step back or something where it's like it's an inconvenience. Whereas if you shot 18 straight across, it would have been better for you than really trying to go for those crazy, jailbait splits as they call them, and having like trigger freeze or some kind of a problem in a stage that maybe throws your concentration off. So.
Well, I'll say this. Ignore what Joel just said. Fast splits, they're going to get you chicks. You're going to get laid. So work on that. Shit's important. It's going to look cool on Instagram. It's going to look cool on YouTube. It's going to look cool on Facebook. So fast splits.
All right.
Does that sound right, Joel?
Yeah, sounds great.
One thing that you have to be careful though is once you try to go really fast on the trigger and like relax your hand, a lot of people just relax the whole arm. So when you try to go fast, make sure your hands are relaxed, but keep your wrist and keep your elbow locked.
Yeah.
So you need to learn how to separate those forearm muscle and hand muscles.
Yeah. Just don't spend all your energy working on splits, because I think there's a lot bigger gains to be had than just that.
What's a bigger gain than the approval of the opposite sex, Joel?
All right, you win.
Isn't that why we do this? Isn't that why we're all here?
That's why you're the host and I'm just the peasant, the scrub guest.
I love talking crazy. You just put up with it. It's great. All right, folks, thank you for listening to Practical Shooting After Dark. If you have a shooting question you'd like the answer to, you want to know how to get chicks in shooting, I'm sure Joel will tell you. Go to benstegger.com, send me your question, because Joel would love to answer it. Maybe Kim, too. Or I might chime in. I don't know. Sound good? Thank you, guys.
Sound good.